Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I'm astonished at this story. I was flicking through and I came across this article, and I'm just, what? I am now firmly of the opinion that the lunatics truly are running the asylum. Ian Blackford, the SNP MP, former head of the SNP group at Westminster before being ousted by Beryl Flynn, he's announced that he's leaving at the end of this parliament anyway, so he's probably only got about 18 months left in the job. Maybe less, who knows, whenever they call the next election. He has been handed this new job as being onto the Standards Committee at Parliament. The Standards Committee. His job is to uphold the standards of people at Westminster. All I can say is standards must be falling quite significantly. This is a man who rallied the troops around to try and protect a sex pest. And now they've put him in charge of standards. God help us all. Anyway, we'll take a look at the article. And it is astounding, isn't it? We'll take a look at this article and see what's going on and why. Oh no, who gave him this job? Anyway, here goes. Right, and I honestly could not believe I was reading this headline. Anger as Ian Blackford lands Commons Standards job, despite the SNP sex scandal cover-up. You know, it's bonkers, isn't it? The former Westminster leader secretly ordered MPs to rally round shamed Patrick Grady after he was suspended from the Commons. Now, the SNP are putting forward to rule on the behaviour of other politicians. Patrick Grady, a toucher-upper of young men. Rather than the party sort of saying, right, that's not acceptable, and distancing themselves from him, throwing him out of the party, and saying, no, we're not having that kind of behaviour in the SNP. We are pro, safety of others. We are not the party of sex pests. He organises the whole party to, circle the wagons around him, protect him from things, because they don't mind. They don't mind having a toucher-upper of young men representing their party. We all know what the P stands for in SNP. Anyway, Ian Blackford has been appointed to the Standards Committee at Westminster, despite his role in protecting and covering up for a sex pest SNP MP. It is unbelievable. How can you have such low standards and then be appointed to the Standards Committee? It's a joke. Anyway, the former Nat staffer who was sexually harassed by Patrick Grady in a London pub when he was still a teenager tonight said the decision sent a dangerous message. Yeah, basically what they're saying is, if you are the sort of MP that touches up young boys, you're perfectly safe in the SNP. They will protect you, and then they will promote the man that's doing the protection of the perpetrator to be the man who's holding the rest of them to his very, very high moral standards. It's dangerous. He's right. It is dangerous. Anyway, opposition politicians questioned whether the SNP's former Commons leader was the right choice to join the committee, which decides whether MPs have broken the rules and failed to meet the standards of public life. Well, by promoting him, it's kind of saying that the standards include the fact that it's okay to touch up young boys. Anyway, Grady was found by an independent panel to have made inappropriate advances towards the party staffer, then aged 19, at a social event in 2016. After lodging a complaint, the young man was summoned to Blackford's office, where he was stunned to find a tearful Grady also present. He later described the meeting as an ambush and was eventually forced out of his job. Yeah, so they side with the perpetrator, not the victim. They blame the victim for being, an astonishingly handsome and attractive young boy. And so it was perfectly normal and understandable that Patrick Grady, this one on the screen now, Patrick Grady, that odious toad, it would be perfectly normal and natural for him to find him attractive, and therefore it would be quite acceptable for him to go and touch him up and fondle him. That's the SNP. Like I say, we all know what the P stands for. Anyway, in June 2022, the Glasgow North MP was suspended from Parliament In June 2022, the Glasgow North MP was suspended for Parliament for 2 days after it was found that he had touched and stroked the teenager's neck, hair and back. So, to become a sex pest in Parliament is 2 days. You get suspended for 2 days. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's anywhere near enough. I think suspended for, I don't know, the rest of your life would perhaps be appropriate for that kind of behaviour. Thrown out of Parliament, thrown out of the SNP, disbarred from ever standing for public office again. Lucky not to receive a criminal charge. But look at him. Oleaginous. Who would want that touching them? I've had turds that winked at me that look better than that and more attractive, that's for sure. That is an odious toad, isn't it? Can you imagine that? Fondling your child. Ugh. Anyway, a leaked recording of the party meeting revealed that Mr. Blackford had demanded the loyalty of the SNP group to the abusive MP. He said, "I, for one, very much look forward to welcoming Patrick back into the group next week. I am sure here that everyone here will agree." If I was there and I was in that group, I would have said, "No, I don't agree. I don't want that slimy piece of sputum anywhere near me. I want him out of the party. I don't like people who touch up other people. I don't like people, especially when they're vulnerable young people, in a position where they know they have to comply or they'll lose their job." You know, that's what he was doing. It was an abuse of power as much as it was sexual advances of an odious, disgusting piece of filth on a young boy. The case has echoes of Chris Pincher's scandal that led to Boris Johnson's resignation, with both Mr. Blackford and Nicola Sturgeon aware of the claims when Grady was reappointed as chief whip. So they knew about him. They knew about he was a toucher-upper of young boys, and they promoted him. Not just Blackford, but Grady as well. It shows exactly the mentality of the SNP. They are the party where it is perfectly fine to go around making sexual advances and touching young boys. According to SNP sources, the fallout from the incident is one of the reasons Blackford was forced out as the SNP leader in Westminster, and has announced he will stand down as an MP at the next election, presumably to spend far more time with his pies. I always make that joke, but now all of a sudden you wonder which kind of pies. Would it be the information exchange sort? Because it does strike me that that's the direction of travel for that party. Grady's victim told the Daily Express Ian Blackford's rallying call for party unity in support of Patrick Grady was a slap on the wrist for harassers and a slap in the face for survivors. That's a very good line, actually. The fact that Ian Blackford turned a blind eye to Patrick Grady's sexual harassment of me when I was a teenager and then to bully me out of my job is a clear contradiction of the committee's purpose. He really... He's got a very good point. I'm completely agreeing with this lad. Blackford's appointment demonstrates a disregard for the trauma we survivors have to endure, and it sends a dangerous message that victims' voices will be silenced and ignored, not only in Westminster but in wider public life. You know, he's absolutely right though. He is bang on. They will not admit ownership of this. They side with the perpetrators of these crimes. They care not one jot for the victims. And he's not the only one. There's been others. An SNP MP has also told the Express website, which broke the story last night this will be, that there is some unhappiness about the appointment, even within the SNP. Meanwhile, Labour's Shadow Scottish Secretary Ian Murray said it was inappropriate. He said the Standards and Privileges Committees, as we have seen in recent months, does a critical job in upholding standards in public life that underpin our democracy. I'm not sure it's appropriate for someone to have dealt so poorly with issues in his own party whilst he was the leader of the SNP. Nominations to the Committee of Standards in Public Life, which is chaired by Labour's Sir Chris Bryant, are decided by party leaders and agreed by the Prime Minister. Mr. Blackford replaces SNP MP Alan Dorrans on the committee. So Rishi Sunak has agreed to put this man in charge of standards when this man protects odious little toads like this. That's effectively, Rishi Sunak is saying effectively that it's okay and acceptable to touch up boys. There's no other way round of reading it. Rishi Sunak had to sign off on this. So Rishi Sunak says, indirectly, it is absolutely acceptable in Parliament to touch up boys. Remarkable. Does nobody actually understand the implications of what they're doing? I think not. Anyway, I'm going to round off and come up. I mean, I've maintained over many videos that the establishment is trying to normalise the P, basically, normalise the sexualisation of young people. And things like this. I mean, okay, he was 19, but he was still fairly young, inexperienced and vulnerable. Not maybe, he was socially vulnerable, but vulnerable because of his position. And they not only promote the man that did it, but they promote the man that covered it up. This is Westminster saying completely that they don't care about victims, that victims don't matter, that victims are their own fault, and that people who commit these vile offences, they're perfectly normal, because obviously it's absolutely acceptable in Westminster to be like this. I don't think it's acceptable, but Rishi Sunak does. The leader of the Tory party does. It goes to show not just how bad the SNP files are, but we also now know how bad the Tory toucher-upper of boys are. I mean, are they all at it? We know Labour is. I mean, Harriet Harman there promoted, she's a senior in the Labour Party, she represented Pi. So, which party is actually against the sexualisation of young people? Because as far as I can see, none of them. The whole establishment seems to be going that way. Isn't it disgusting? Why do we keep voting these people in? We need to stop. We need to vote in a whole parliament of independents. Anyway, I shall stop there. It's going to get me angry, I can tell it. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please do hit the subscribe button, because that's what it's there for. Ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay well away from politicians, because they're all sleazy degenerates. Goodbye.